Hello, I've dressed up a little bit smarter. I've got a map tie on because I wanted to talk to you about OpenStreetMap news or updates, what's going on in the various projects, sub-projects, updating the map around the world and the tools. And to keep updated, there's so much different social media channels now. There's like Twitter, Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram. There's OpenStreetMap posts, but there's also the OpenStreetMap community forums and the mailing list. And so people do different things and discuss it in different places. Well, there's a great website called WeeklyOSM, and as you can imagine, it does a post. It's a blog, so websites. So there'll be a post summarising all the news stories that they've collected and collated, and you can even subscribe to it as an email. So that I'm not involved. I'm going to make it clear I'm not WeeklyOSM, but you can volunteer and help with that. There's quite a simple way to submit a link, but then they've got a great tool that collects this information, and even if it's on different platforms, make sure it's just one news item, and they categorize it into different sections such as community news or tools or events that are happening. But not everyone likes reading or checking blog posts for getting that summary. I wondered, would video format be good for just recapping, another way to share these things this information has got together? So here I am trying it out, and we'll see. This might be the only one I do, because obviously it's weekly. It is a summary. It's not every day, but and it's that's a lot less frequent than the posts happening themselves where they collect this. But to do this, I would have to kind of get the video done quite quickly. So maybe I'll work with the WeeklyOSM team in future, but as I say, this could be the only one. It depends if people like it, if it's worthwhile doing. So let's get into it. So we're looking at WeeklyOSM. The English version at least was published on the 30th of March, and it covers the 20th to the 26th of March. Starts the section with community. So, community news. Bastian has recounted an experience of contributing to Map Complete. So, particularly, contributing to the Map Complete software, particularly by adding wayside shrines. So these are those little religious memorials to saints or other deities, and little roadside altars. But how are they contributed? And so Bastian has actually talked about, on a blog post here, talked about using different tools and what they wanted to use. So they also looked at Street Complete and Every Door, way of adding it, but how do they add the specific things? And for open historical maps, and not directly OpenStreetMap, but same tool stack, Benjamin Kay mapped the hotels of Berlin in 1910 and wrote a bit about that. Andy Townsend was working on some walking and cycling custom web maps, and he's discovered the problems that a lot of the names of those cycling routes or walking routes are actually descriptive. They describe the start and end point. So he's discussed how to deal with that, and the problems it causes of putting in names into OpenStreetMap that are more descriptive than what actually the route name is. Andy Townsend also has shared a guide on using the validator in JOSM, that's the Java OpenStreetMap tool, to identify errors and rectify them, particularly in relations and boundary relations, and that's quite good and visual, and in that aspect has focused on why it's important and why JOSM's better. The validation, at least they feel, is better than some of the other OpenStreetMap tools. WeeklyOSM kind of reflected. They shared an article about farm parcels, these rather than just land use cover that a lot of data sets have of is this agricultural. Actually, it's interesting the different patterns around the country, whereas if the individual farmland is kind of very structured, or is it round because of irrigation, or is it small and higgledy-piggledy and odd shape? And they said there was an article they shared about this, but WeeklyOSM reflected that that actually that matches OpenStreetMap. A lot of people, which I think is rightly so, drawing the farmland parcels rather than just overall where's they use. And the value and context that gives is really good, using precise aerial imagery to see those different formations. Vietnam's planning to cut its provinces in half as cost-saving measure. So Eugene just focuses on the OpenStreetMap and is like, oh, that's going to be an OpenStreetMap project to map those. I guess if they're cutting the number in half, they're probably combining these administrative provinces. But what will that also mean? Will it mean updating? Are there town halls and stuff associated? Are some going to no longer be town halls? There's going to be some update there, but it sounds like Eugene's on it, or at least with the local community will be. And the Latin and American Caribbean Open Hubbing Map held a workshop on OpenStreetMap and lots of tools about it: Mapillary, organic maps, and new maps for faculty members at the technology university there in Mexico. It was a 3-day workshop. There were social impact projects based on the collaborative mapping. They designed some of those projects that they want to work on. That's really exciting. The article for that one is in Spanish, but WeeklyOSM helpfully linked to the English version. And I think that's really good, probably quite inspiring if you're running your own OpenStreetMap workshop. You could look at that and think of the things to include. And the next section of the WeeklyOSM news is imports. So just one thing today, that Matthias has outlined the process of importing free floating bike and e-scooter parking areas in France. So these are the ones that it's bike or e-scooter hire, but there's not a specific docking station, but there is an area that, hey, this is a place where you can find them or where you can leave it after your hire. So they're importing that data for Lille in France, or they did import that data in July 2024, and they've just outlined the process they did that with that. Okay, so for local chapter news, OpenStreetMap US has published its March 2025 newsletter. So I don't know if those items, maybe some of them made it into WeeklyOSM in past weeks, because there's a good chunk in there itself, but there's also news of the upcoming State of the Map US, which is in a number of weeks. I forget how many. I think 3 months away. Which leads us to the next section of WeeklyOSM. Which is the events that have happened or happening. So first up, really exciting, the event of the year, across the world is State of the Map, the event of the year in OpenStreetMap terms anyway, State of the Map. And that's set to take place in Manila in the Philippines at the start of October. And they've just announced the call for participation is open. So this is the programme committee inviting submissions for talks, workshops, panels, and just a way for you to share your work within OpenStreetMap, whether that's professional work or as a hobby. Great opportunity, and there's different lengths of talks, or if a workshop or a panel's more appropriate, you can submit that. And Falsius has tweeted on Mastodon a report about the OpenStreetMap booth that they had on the first day of Chemnick's Linux Days. So I think that was in Germany. You can see a picture there if you follow the link. It's got posters and big maps, which is always exciting. And they also did a title. There was a presentation at that conference. OpenStreetMap is not just a map, and so had lots of thematic maps and entertaining anecdotes apparently. So I might go and look at that talk, which was given in German, but I believe there's an English translation. OpenStreetMap Indonesia have organised a mapping talk series titled Improving Data Quality of Road Mapping. So it's got at least one video already in there, and it's online on YouTube on Indonesia, so you can go and have a look at those. And so State of the Map US, as I said, it's coming up. They've announced that their poster session application, so if you want to produce a poster that will be displayed at State of the Map US, you can submit that because the deadline's been extended to Friday the 18th of April. On education, so that's a section on just learning new skills and aspects of OpenStreetMap. Well, Raquel has written a guide a short guide, it says, about showing how to map trees in OpenStreetMap with Map Complete, but also how to visualize them in 3 different ways: Panoramax, Overpass Turbo, or UMap. I think that's really good, adding specific data in. How do you do it? And also, how do you actually visualize that in different ways to really bring out your personal interest with that data niche you added. And it's got lots of screenshots, so that looks good. You could probably apply it to some other data items you might want to map in OpenStreetMap. And there was earlier, I didn't see this, but there was a question from Tilodi seeking recommendations for a web mapping tutorial or course. So how do you put maps on a website that you can interact with and show points of interest on top of a map and be able to click around that? So there's been some recommendations on there, a couple of resources. One is in German, publishing maps on the web, and another one in English, OpenStreetMap resources for web developers. And I think they aim, I do know I've done that a bit myself, you need some JavaScript experience and maybe a bit of HTML, but not a lot. So they're probably good starting points. Our next section is OSM Research. So this is mainly within the academic field, kind of does a lot, fascinating things, often long papers that I don't read, so it's great to see these summaries in WeeklyOSM, and to make sure that knowledge is not just contained from people studying it within a section of academia, but spreads to as many people as possible. So this week there's 2 things from Hygiet, in Heidelberg. So first of all, they've reported that there's been a paper published underscoring the critical importance of integrating vector ecology and human behaviour into advanced disease modelling frameworks. So they've been looking at mosquito biting behaviour and human movements, and so I think the paper's just saying more actually specific information has been important in that. The other bit is talking about accurate road surface information is critical for emergency response and route planning. So not just that there's a road there, but what's the road surface? Is it tarmac? Is it cobblestone? I suppose if you're on an ambulance and you've got to go over bumpy cobbles, that's really going to affect you because you need to go calmly. Likewise, if it's muddy, then just a dirt track, maybe the ambulance can't get there or any certain vehicles. So it's critical. But there's been a paper, or no, it's not a paper. Yeah, there's been a paper presented that says OpenStreetMap only has surface attributes for 30 to 40% of the roads worldwide. And Hygit has created an openly available worldwide data set on road surface types. So I'm not sure, I've not looked into it, so I don't know if that's OpenStreetMap, but OpenStreetMap plus other things, I guess if they're using Geo AI, maybe they're understanding the context of if OpenStreetMap doesn't have the surface attribute, can they guess what it is from other geographic information, such as perhaps defaults in the country or how rural it is. Moving on, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, so where it's used out to give humanitarian aid. So the news this week is that OpenStreetMap France has launched an initiative, a humanitarian mapping initiative, to assess building damage in Mayonnaise, which is a French overseas department that just had a visit from Cyclone Shaidu. So it was tropical cyclone struck Southeast Asia. So they're using post-disaster satellite imagery, and they've covered a number of towns in that French overseas department to map it and help the humanitarian response to that. Maps is actually a section within WeeklyOSM. This is just showing outputs of OpenStreetMap, I guess, the maps, because we know OpenStreetMap isn't just one map. So, first of all, Lord Gary Sugar created a UMap that shows pins for house names in the United Kingdom coloured by their total occurrence count. So things like house name Rose Cottage is very common. There's over 1,000 in the UK, as is the cottage or the bungalow or the coach house, these common names. So they appear one colour, and then if it's a little less common, another colour. I had a brief look. I don't know if that's just been done for Potter Spa or maybe other areas of the UK take a while to load that I didn't wait for. Just a bit of interest, I guess, and lets you see if you're looking at a street, are all the house names. I always think for a house to have a name rather than a number, it's either historic, like the old schoolhouse is very common in rural UK. That's how they described, they live at the old schoolhouse, and it became their address. But sometimes they become fancy. People think they'd rather have a name rather than a house. And so I guess it shows, are they just picking ones that exist elsewhere? Is it a really unique house for some reason. Maybe it's named after the estate it was on. Anyway, that's interesting. So I've not seen, I don't know that there's discussion over that, but certainly you can go and look at the UMap and look around. Also, maps news. So you'll know on the OpenStreetMap page, you can click that layers icon and see different map styles. There's a few requirements for that, and there was a transport map, a public transport map, that kind of disappeared because of hosting problems. Well, now it's been announced that GeoFabric's going to host their own version of what was called OPNV Kata, which is German phrase. It's being rebranded as the public transport map to make it easier for international users. And they're going to see about if it can get on OpenStreetMap.org. Because hopefully they can keep that running, and GeoFabric, I'm sure they have the understanding behind that to provide more options. So software, what updates that use OpenStreetMap have had any news this week? Well, OpenStreetMap, Open Historical Map, so using different data, they've released a renderer update. They say it significantly improves performance by reducing vector tile size by 88% on average, and sometimes in 96%. So some improvements on being able to see those visual changes, which is particularly important with Open Historical Map potentially having a lot more data in some places, because it, unlike OpenStreetMap, it doesn't just record what's there now, it's things of the past. Also, OSM, I think you pronounce this, OHSOME Planet is a new software library. So this will be more of interest to programmers, I guess. And it facilitates transforming of different OpenStreetMap data files, particularly the history, to make it easier to use with other tools. And to bring in. Important if you know what it is, I think that is. And great to see the new software library to make more possibilities. On to programming and updates in code, I guess similar to software, but more behind the scenes, or what's been done interesting. So, Mozilla AI, their team had developed some AI-driven object detection, so that features could be mapped in OpenStreetMap, I think from aerial imagery, but also from other data sources, I'm not sure. Its test detecting hundreds of swimming pools was their test. But there's been a bit of backlash or a bit of criticism, because is that appropriate? Have they really been and understood the OpenStreetMap project, and what are they adding? OpenStreetMap is made by a lot of volunteers, which takes time, but they're using understanding from different inputs and checking all of them. Even when I trace aerial imagery for OpenStreetMap, I'm not doing it blindly. I'm able to say, yes, that is a swimming pool, or what have you, and combining it with local knowledge. So just having some generative AI, you've got to be really careful that you've not got false positives there. And so it sounds like Mozilla AI, the team, they disabled some of their demonstrations. Seems like they're hearing that criticism and hopefully taking it on board. And I don't know where they'll be going forward with that. But that's an interesting discussion. And as with all these other news items, there's links in WeeklyOSM, so that if you want to read up on that and join the discussions. And it was World Water Day, was on the 22nd of March, if you didn't know. There's lots of water stuff going on in OpenStreetMap now, improving that data. And Kate City developed some overpass queries to take advantage of that and look at, to take advantage of OpenStreetMap and how it describes water courses and making that available. Meanwhile, on the programming front, Fabio Manganello is currently working on a GPS Tracker, it's called, which is a self-hosted solution designed as an alternative to Google Maps timeline. So if you like that stuff of like Google Maps timeline where using your phone, it can track where you've been and you can see your history over years or months of the places you've been, and I think your data related to that. Great feature, but do you want Google to know all that, or would you rather have a system you upload on your own web server that you control and the data's there? Well, then it seems like GPS Tracker might be for you. Very interesting project that I think I might take a closer look at for myself. Okay, so on with the releases section, so updates to software, new versions and such. So there's been a pull request for a long-standing issue on the OpenStreetMap website with bi-directional text. So this is languages, I think like Arabic, where they particularly right to left can be an issue, and things like writing OpenStreetMap diary entries. Users had to put in a line break to avoid the text jumbling and becoming unreadable. So there's a fix there that will hopefully be accepted and go onto the OpenStreetMap website to improve that. And version 8.4.1 of Grass has loads more changes than its previous version. It's important fixes and improvements of Grass tools, which are complicated GIS stuff. I think QGIS uses a lot of the Grass tools to do some internal bits and maths that I won't understand. OSM, which is an open source routing engine, has had its latest version, so that's version 6, request candidate 1. So trying to see if this is a stable version. Includes performance improvements, enhanced algorithm efficiency, and several new features. So some software that once has routing might want to update that. And the section, did you know that? So this is a section added in. It's not news as such, but I really love that WeeklyOSM does this. Keep reminding things that, some you may know, you may not, but it doesn't matter when you came to the project or started reading WeeklyOSM even. These will probably be exciting things to learn or just reminders. So OSM Fukushima, they regularly discuss the Japanese edition of WeeklyOSM. So first of all, I should say, did you know that WeeklyOSM is actually published in many different languages? That's why I read the English one. So even if it's talking about articles in a different language, it makes it clear what language it is and provides a translation or automated translation into the language you're reading WeeklyOSM in. So for me, English. Anyway, so they discuss every edition of WeeklyOSM on YouTube, apparently. So I didn't realise that when I started filming this WeeklyOSM video. And they consider creating a YouTube channel in your language as well. So I'll have to take a look at that. I think it might be that they discuss maybe through video call chat and then it's published on YouTube. So but that's yeah, anyway, that's in Japanese, which is fair enough for them. So I suppose you could use the comments to discuss part of this week's Weekly OSM. Maybe instead of me just reading out Weekly OSM, would it be interesting for me to meet with some people and go through it and discuss their viewpoints? I don't know. I'm not sure how practical that will be. Talked in the past about meetups, and often that's what the pub meetup in Edinburgh or in London will do. They'll chat about things they've heard happening through Weekly OSM. Another Did You Know That? Did you know that Small Town USA is an automated bot on the Mastodon server? So Mastodon's a bit like Twitter, and it tweets daily updates featuring US towns with populations under 1,000 that are currently undermapped in OSM. So I think it detects how many roads there are if it thinks they're missing, or maybe there aren't many features. And for some people, it's a fun way they can then use that to go and see if they can contribute any data there to that small town, either through aerial imagery, maybe local knowledge, maybe other data sources. It is a cool one to know about, but I don't know how many people respond to the posts. OSM in media. So this is items that where's OpenStreetMap being talked about elsewhere, not within the OpenStreetMap circles. So only one item, a German podcast, BT Schrankenfeld, talked about how maps shape our world, and they were joined by Daniel Escotta, who's a cultural and media scientist at the University of Bielefeld, and they were joined by UT Schneider, a historian, and last of all by Jochen Topf, a software developer and author that he is very active in OpenStreetMap. So it's in German. I'm sure that podcast would have been interesting. I'm sure Jochen would have put a lot into from the OpenStreetMap context and how it's shaped our world and changed things, kind of what we map on OpenStreetMap. There's even a section in Weekly OSM called Other Geo Things, so maps or locations, and this can often be quite long because it's not restricted to OpenStreetMap. In fact, it's not really about OpenStreetMap, but fascinating. If you're reading or hearing about Weekly OSM, you probably enjoy maps and things like that. So there's a few. Not sure I'll talk about them all, but there was a German conference on disaster risk reduction, which there's been some notes on and interesting. Archaeologists in the Exzel River Valley, so that's south of Paris, have discovered 14,000-year-old carvings in a shelter, so that's quite exciting. The engravings appear to depict a miniature map of local river network, providing unexpected evidence of the cartographic knowledge possessed by Upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. That's quite fascinating. Maps, but also cartographic knowledge 14,000 years ago, a long time. And they were understanding how river networks connect and a miniature map and the importance of that. And things like there's been acquisition of Komoot, a German-based route planning platform. The Geographical Service of the European Union are maintaining an easy-to-use web map application for spatial information and querying that. Lots of other things going on there. Even places in India where they've airlines have been reporting instances of GNSS, which is location systems. They've reported interference affecting aircraft on some of the India-Pakistan borders. So yeah, lots of bits there. Really interesting. Upcoming events is the very last section of Weekly OSM. When I look at this, I kind of scan through what are the events in my country, or perhaps if there's a country I'm travelling to, is there any events there? But they're all taken from OSM Cal, which is osmcal.org, and so you can go and see way more than a week into the future there. If you've got any news, if you've seen a blog or a tweet or a Mastodon tweet, and you think it's important Weekly OSM should be reporting on it, you can go to Weekly OSM and click contribute at the top to submit. They just need a link and then a bit of a description. And the link's important because that means if someone else submits it, they can see it's duplicate, and that's fine. They can then work out only to report on it once. And I think you can provide some help to categorise it into the right section. So yeah, that was Weekly OSM 766. They've done that many weeks. So I don't know, what did you think about me doing it as a YouTube video? Did you like my map tie? I know it's not great and it's not OSM data. But yeah, should I do these again? It does take a long time, and I think it's going to produce a long video. Yeah, I've also got to edit and all the images and graphics. I don't know. Basically, it's up to people in the comments, I guess, saying, is it worth doing? And to anyone who volunteers with Weekly OSM, big thank you to you. It's a great way it's a great service collating all that information, so much there, and presenting it in nice bullet points for me just to read through in my own time during the week when I can. So thank you, keep doing it. I hope you appreciate me doing doing it in video format. Yeah, great.